There's no sound.
Residential house lots. We'll be using Sealing Bridge Road. So we would ask that we could not doing it. You can see this is the area. This then the step and the neighbor's lot, Tyson lot is right here. So really, we're just coming across this stretch right here. To be able to get to do work across the lot. road so that you could do you like to see them? Doesn't matter. 30 by 50, 40 by 60.
Sounds good.
30 by 50.
Yeah. Because the last plan showed it about the driveway about 60 to 65 feet from the road, the drivable surface. So you don't want to be too far back. That seemed to fit next to the septic reserve area.
When I was on the site, the most obvious place to build a house is right
Right
here.
there, that's where it was on the.
The drive under, so that you could, drive into that basement.
Sure.
And it would be the simplest, easiest way to build on this site.
Okay.
Whether that's the way they want to do it is
Well,
whole nother.
that's true. The building inspector and somebody else will think about that, zoning administrator and so forth. Okay, ready to proceed here. Dear applicant, this is to inform you that the Barrington Planning Board on its August 5th, 2025 meeting has conditionally approved your application referenced above.
Do you want us to vote on that before you read a notice of decision?
I think I could read it into the record and then you vote.
Yeah. So we voted and then, okay.
Well, we haven't read them actually in such a long time, but I thought this was short, so. The application met all the town ordinances, regulations in accordance with the town of Barrington, New Hampshire subdivision regulations amended December 3rd, 2024.
With the two waivers.
And with the two waivers, I think that's on the back part. And the Barrington zoning ordinance amended March 11th, 2025. The meeting minutes are fully incorporated into this notice of decision. All of the precedent conditions below must be met by the applicant at the applicant's expense prior to the plans being certified by the planning board. Certification of the plans is required prior to commencement of any site work or recording of any plans. Once precedent conditions have been met and the plans are certified, the approval is considered final. Please note if all of the precedent conditions are not met within 12 calendar months to the day, April 1st, 2026, the board's approval will be considered to have lapsed unless the mutually agreeable extension has been granted. The waivers granted are as follows from checklist item number 31, 2-foot contours. And we have the second one here too. It's all listed.
Date should be August.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
From the month, yeah, that makes sense. April, August 5th, 25. And the second one is item number 2. Second wave.
31.
Yeah, we have 31.
Those two.
The other one is 2, right? That's why I pulled 2. Checklist item number 2, boundary of the entire parcel to be subdivided. Conditions precedent, add the following to the plan, owner's signature. Correct the owner for map 219, lot 43 on the plan sheets. You may have already done that. Wetlands, item C, wetland scientist signature. D, professional surveyor signature. E, driveway location. F, building envelope. So you're going to do those. Item number 2, subdivision recording fees to be paid. Exact recording fee and return shipping to be determined by the Stratford County Registry of Deeds. Payment must be payable to the Stratford County Registry of Deeds. Town staff will provide the costs and when the plans are submitted to the planning board chair. Item B, L-chip fee, $25 payable to the Stratford County Registry of Deeds. Item number 3, certificate of monumentation installation submitted to the town. Proper and complete survey monumentation shall be installed on the properties as a condition of final approval of the application. The applicant's surveyor shall certify in writing that the bounds and pins have been installed according to the submitted plans. Prior to obtaining the board signature, the applicant shall submit 2 full-size paper copies of the subdivision plans, one 11 by 17 copy and a PDF/A format file with supporting documents as required, with a letter explaining how the applicant addressed the conditions of approval to the land use office. Planning board chair shall sign and date all plans meeting the conditions of approval. The board shall endorse 2 full-size paper copies of the subdivision plans for their records, and one 11 by 17 copy with a PDF/a file format for the case file folder. General and subsequent conditions, street view signage shall be 911 compliant, approved by the town of Barrington. Okay. Yep.
I didn't hear it, but you also will need a DES subdivision.
Oh, yeah.
This is it.
We'll add that to the,
Just so that nobody
yep.
misses that.
Let's add that to G on your sheet. You want to do that? Okay, anything else by the board? Okay, good luck.
Oh, we didn't vote.
We still have to vote.
Need a motion and a vote.
Yeah.
Make that motion, seconded by
A second.
roll call.
Shepherd, aye.
Catch an eye.
Gabrielle, aye.
Test your eye. Alan, aye.
Driscoll, aye. Losing my mind. Okay, all right. Okay, item B, 235-1-1 and 3, TC-25, amend SR. Owner Robert Baldwin, Dove Development Group, LLC, request by the applicant to amend the site plan, site review to remove access road, removal of required easements, define open space use and area along with asking for a 1-year extension located at Community Way at 235 lots 1-1 and 3 in the town center. Welcome.
Evening, Chair, members of the board. Christopher Berry with Berry Surveying and Engineering, representing Dove Development Group, here again this evening. Robert Baldwin is with me. If there's any questions I can't answer, I'd be happy to try and answer them. We're here on a few different topics. I'm going to give the board just a little bit of history. In the early 2020s, the project was approved substantially as shown and designed. That project had received a variance for 25 single-family housing units or single-family attached housing units to be developed on site. And since our planning board approval, we were informed that that ZBA approval required a certain amount of open space that was quote unquote offered as part of the prior application to the ZBA. And that included land that we did not own and control at this point in the development's life of the project. And so based on how that approval had been granted, it became clear to Rob and I that it was overly complicated. It involved too many people, too many pieces of property that we didn't own and control. And we're essentially, for lack of a better professional term, we were chasing chickens around the yard trying to get our project just even off the ground. And so since our last extension last year, we've been back before the ZBA. We clarified and sort of reaffirmed what we thought the approval meant. And as part of that, the planning board, as part of the PUD regulations, is required to review and discuss the open space as part of the actual project approval. Now, I personally remember speaking with the board about that at the time. Jeff Brand at the time brought it up. I believe even Andy brought it up that this required a certain amount of open space. We demonstrated the open space at the rear of the property on our plan that was approved that night. But the staff feels that there should be more of a sort of a concrete decision that the space that's provided is of substantial conformity with the way the PUD regulations read. The PUD regulations are pretty vague. They basically say open space, civic space, or other. And it's up to the board and the applicant to sort of determine what that means for a project. Now, At the onset of this project, nearly a decade ago, the town did not own a number of the parcels that they now own in the project site area. And so I think the staff understands that open space for this particular project is less important and more useful space, community space, and connectivity space is probably more important. And so what we've committed to doing is essentially dedicating the rear of our parcel to the open and civic space. This would have trails that connect to the road that goes out to the proposed wells. Those trails would connect down to the rail line. Understanding the rail line is not a public asset at this point. It is heavily used by the public. And then we would provide trail access to the abutting property that the town is working to acquire. There are existing trails that are there now that we would essentially connect onto moving forward. And so in addition to that sort of affirmation of what we assumed our approval meant, we're here for 2 revisions to the approval tonight. The first revision is our original plan provided an access road down to, I call it Garth's driveway. And that was negotiated with Mrs. Boyer, who was a planning board member for a number of years. She worked with us when she lived in the house. She didn't necessarily, if she saw this project get built, she did not want to maintain and travel all the way out behind Garth's house any longer to gain access to Community Way and then Route 9. So she politely asked us if we would provide her access through our subdivision project. The proposed roadway is designed and laid out to be taken over by the town at some point in the future. And so she would have more direct access to a publicly maintained roadway. In support of that and in trade for that, we had asked for a number of easements from Mrs. Boyer. And shortly after our approval, in a really quick circumstance, we were informed that she was selling her house and moving north. And we had not finalized easements with Mrs. Boyer. So we finalized intents between the parties, and those were shared with the new buyer of the property. But they have no interest in working with us moving forward on that project. So the 2 revisions that we're asking for our plan tonight essentially remove the access road that was proposed to Mrs. Boyer and any of the cross easements that would be required for that and or sewage disposal easements. Those are all now removed from the plan because they're no longer required. We have filed for our DOT permit. They wrote back. They asked us to conduct additional study. GPI has finalized their additional study. They found that the project doesn't create a substantial issue for Route 9. There's some retiming that might be needed at 125 that the applicant will have to work with DOT on to ensure that we are issued a DOT permit. We have responded back to Fish and Game as it relates to our alteration of terrain permit. We've made the revisions that alteration of terrain has asked for, and we have resubmitted back to alteration of terrain. I tell you all of that to tell you we have now narrowed down the number of chickens that we're chasing around in the yard and have filed all of the appropriate permits so that we can move ahead with our project. We're hoping to start this fall. With that said, just based on this project's history, I am asking for the board to indulge an additional extension on our conditions of approval so that we can ensure that this is finalized and finalized this fall. And if we don't break ground this fall, it will be in the spring of 2026. That's why we're here.
Any questions?
Chris, you have a vegetated walking path shown in the drawings there to the, kind of in that triangle area.
Yes, yep.
That seems to really kind of go nowhere, just kind of, does that connect to the well access trail down the road?
Yeah, so the well access trail comes down, and then this is like a gravel pad around those wells. So you walk in, it's sort of ambiguous gravel, and then you could basically enter a new trailhead in this location. We would also propose one, Rob and I have discussed this, propose one in this location. It's more of a more direct route to the abutting library parcel, which is right here where my pen is. So we could provide connectivity from our site and other sites to the library from a walking standpoint. Yeah.
Is there any parking for anybody that wants to access the trail?
Library.
There's no parking on our site. If we want to add maybe a couple of parking spaces in the cul-de-sac, we can certainly do that.
I think that'd be nice.
Yeah.
That'd be a good thing.
Any more comments before I open public comment?
One other question. The road agent, maybe the farm road agent, he didn't like the plowing situation on.
Yeah, I unfortunately, and I have to apologize to Ernie. I wrote back, Friday was a miserable day for me. I got back to the office and read that email and probably lost my temper a little bit by email. We're not changing our road design at this point. We've designed it to the road standards that are within the subdivision regulations. It was reviewed by CMA, it was approved by CMA, it was reviewed and approved by this board. We're not changing our road design.
Second thing he commented on, Overlook Drive, was that redundant? We already.
There's one off Boulder.
Yeah, so we'll have to work with the select board on naming. Sorry.
For the record, no problem.
Andy?
Now, we've had a lot of discussion about, from like a PUD standpoint, layout, placement, like subdivision and what PUDs would look like. This is, I guess, different from what we have been talking about recently. And also at a point where it has already expired, not once, but twice.
It hasn't technically expired.
Not yet.
Well, I think you're talking about active and substantial
Yeah,
work had to be done within 2 years, and we granted a third year.
right.
Here we are,
Yes.
and it's a 5-year safe harbor, I guess, regulations.
Right.
But if you refile this, legislation just was approved to extend it to 7 years.
Understood.
You'd have that advantage.
And that actually applies retroactively to projects.
The state law just changed.
Yeah.
So, not to undermine what Andy's saying, there's been a substantial amount of work that's gone into this now. What you are likely going to see from us in, I would say, the near future, we want to receive signed plans and start our road construction. But certain sections of this, primarily this section, we have a different vision of how we'd like that laid out. And I think that might be what you're referring to. And so just because we're here tonight asking for an extension so that we can move forward with our plan doesn't shut the door in our mind on revisions that will better this project.
Okay. I would ask that in that consideration then, the islands down the road, in fairness to the road agent, I can, as we've talked, plowing is definitely a nightmare, and that would creates probably an unnecessary hassle for them. So just removing the island, I think, would be.
And that's okay with us. We'll certainly consider that moving forward. That's a requirement of your subdivision regulations in the TC zone. So I'm happy to ask for another waiver, but that is a requirement of your subdivision regulations. So.
Any more comments?
Yeah.
Hearing none, I'll open it to public comment. Anybody like to comment on this? Please come on down.
They do look nice, but I get the plowing
They,
problem.
they end up just being overgrown messes.
Doug Bogan, Conservation Commission Chair. I just wanted to say that we'd certainly support allowing or making for a parking area by the trail or the trailhead, I guess. You know, a kiosk, some kind of signage showing that it is a trail. Given that this whole area, I think, is going to see a lot more, public use and connection to other sites that we're interested in. It would be a good thing, certainly, to, make that available for more than just the people in the community itself.
Thank you. Any more questions? How about online? Anybody like to speak? Who's online? Just, this Barbara's gone, so.
I had one other question. I just didn't want to do it during public comment. You, in your
Closing public comment, Bevel.
in your earlier statement, you said that based on their traffic study, they didn't have a concern about the traffic on Route 9. They felt it was relatively in decent shape.
Yeah, I'd have to review the study in totality again. There's talk about a right turn bay into our site. DOT needs to review that to see if they agree, and if they agree, then we would need to design it. I think part of the reason for my extension request, Andy, is I think you're very aware that it frustrates me the steps we have to go through with DOT and how very linear they are.
Yep.
So we may be told by DOT we would like a right turn bay. Then we have to engage in somebody to design it. Then it goes through another round of review and then back through the horn one more time. So there is a right turn bay that may be required for this site. What I was referring to is our site doesn't trigger a left turn bay into our site currently. Future phases of this project may require that improvement. And what the study found is that there can be timing efficiencies found in the light with Route 9 and 125. And with a little bit of retiming of the light, it can improve the operation of that intersection. So DOT just needs to review that, and then we would prepare a protocol for that.
Okay, because those were the right turn into it. I was less concerned about as opposed to the left turn into it, and also the left turn coming out of it, especially during prime traffic hours between 7:30 and about 9:30 in the morning. Anybody that's spent any time on that area, I know you don't get up that early, Ron. So,
Because I'm retired.
right, but. For anybody that's come down through there in the morning, I have been on that where it has backed up all the way to the fire department because of the timing of that light. So I know that area, if somebody's trying to come out of there, and with the addition of 20 plus housing units or 40 plus housing units, it's going to be challenging getting out of there as people are heading off to work in the morning.
Yeah, so that's what the study found.
I think there was legislation passed that requires state agencies to respond quicker to these applications. I think that passed.
I'm not trying to cast aspersions. Specifically D6 has done very, very well at increasing their review. It's just how, in the private sector, we critical path everything. How do we get from here to here the fastest? It's just not how that agency works. That's all. So I'm not trying to cast aspersions.
No, I know.
Yeah.
That might be a hopeful thing.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Hey, any further questions or any motions here to grant an extension?
I make a motion we grant the extension on this project.
I'll second it.
Roll call?
Shepherd, aye.
Cat and I.
Debbie LOI.
Nap aye.
Jesse, right?
Al and I.
Driscoll, aye. In addition, we have a motion to amend application 235-1.1 and 3-TC-21-SRLL 9.6 owners Dove Development Group as follows. Accept the 25% open space set aside designated on the revised plans as acceptable for the planned unit development in accordance with the decision of the Zoning Board of Adjustment granted on July 16, 2025. which reduced the amount of open space from 42.1% to 25%. Item 2, to remove easements that were necessary to provide access to the driveway leading to the home on tax map 235, lot 4, which has been requested by the previous owner of the property. I think that's it for the motion. And anyone to second that?
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Shepherd, aye.
Captain, I.
Capello, aye.
Yeah, bye.
Tessie, aye.
Ellen, I.
Driscoll, aye.
Just for clarity on that approval, that would include adding some additional parking and a trailhead sign?
We could add that too.
Yes.
Mr. Planner?
Yep.
I'm going to go to the top one, 235-1-5.1-3. Request by the applicant to amend the site plan to remove access road, removal of the required easements, define open space use, including maybe some parking space, to the area, and asking for 1-year extension on Community Way, 235, lot 1-1 and 3 in the town center. So I'm not sure, I'm just asking for a vote on that, just so everything on this page is voted. Well, it was, yeah, I'm just getting all of the words.
Well, we were going to the 1 year, and we just.
All right, we don't have to.
Yeah, I think
I do have a question, I know we've already voted on it, but of the 25% open space that's there, how much of that 25% is wetlands? Because I know that is in that whole back corners where that wetland runs around through there.
Yeah, it's just this finger, so I'm 10% of it maybe? It's just this finger of wetlands.
Isn't the open space part of subdivision? Regs?
No,
No, it's in zoning?
it's part of the PUD.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I just hate to include wetland in part of what is classified as 25% of open space, because nobody's building on it anyway.
Well, but I think, and this may be a philosophical conversation over an adult beverage, but I think the 25%, it's not 25% open space in the conventional sense of open space subdivision.
Right.
It's 25% of the space needs to be dedicated for another use.
Right.
Which I think is a little different than just open space.
Part of the use is for frogs to live.
Yeah, but that's going to happen anyway.
It's pretty good space, connectivity wise to the trail, so I think.
I mean, but I think that, like, if you look at the lot, that is not an area that you're going to predominantly use anyway. It makes the most logical sense for open space back there.
That's
Or-
pretty much all the conservation subdivisions, the land's in the back, open space is in the back, not every single one. So everyone complains, it's dense. It's because the open space is in the back and they can't see it. That's why everyone hates conservation subdivisions.
But my general sense is I'm fine with the 25%, but I would lean on the fact that it's more 25% of upland as opposed to, so that it can be utilized for trails. It can be utilized for, a bike path. It can be utilized for things that the town may actually want to have value in. Like if they wanted to put a pavilion out there for like a camping spot, or not a camping spot, but a picnic spot, or things that have real value.
I think the conservation folks might say that wetlands has a real value and that's what should be protected.
Well,
So it's just
I mean,
one view.
but the
was my
wetlands
point about
protected,
frogs.
the wetlands are protected anyway.
I agree with you.
And probably a good percent of the people will be walking to the rail trail anyway, or to the library, as you mentioned earlier. Okay, can we proceed? We're going to notice a decision.
Go first.
Proceed with that.
Chair.
Notices of decision?
Well, we're not going to read it. We're just going to vote on it. Well, luckily it's one page.
I thought you already, made all the.
Yeah.
You think we covered everything?
Yeah.
We
Okay.
approve the extension and
Yeah.
changes.
Did
See,
the,
make sure everything's here, covered.
yeah,
All right.
did the,
It's just an amendment to the previous.
did the revision include the removal of the access road?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Thank you. Enjoy your night.
Luck. Okay, next item. All right, we got a notice for a public hearing. Amendments to the conservation subdivision regulations. All right. All right, we're going to discuss the amendments to the,
So this version of the conservation subdivision regulations, well, what you discussed, I think it was back in April when Steve Whitman made the presentation to you folks. And this was what they had pared it down to. And there were some questions from you folks on the very last thing about charging, fees, the one-time fee, and that was something that you kind of debated then, but you didn't really come to a full consensus on at that meeting. So, I mean, that's the question. That's something that needs to be discussed along with everything else. You really shouldn't make a decision on it tonight, but if you've got any direction for me to make improvements to this, when we did the public hearing notice, I had a link down here that was to go to the subdivision, the conservation subdivision regulations, and it wasn't put in the notice. So the link wasn't there for people to look at the actual language. However, you do have it on the agenda. You got the Conservation Commission here tonight, and got a couple of things you could make decisions on and send me back to make the change.
okay. So 10.4.7, one-time fee is described.
Well, before we go there, let's go to 10.3.
10.3. All right.
I mean, it says, the planning board will entertain waiver requests for road grades up to 9%. Changes in road radius, if such changes will aid the applicant in retaining natural features, reducing visual impact, and meeting the objectives of the four-step process.
That he utilized that in reference to talking about the cut on slopes, where if they had been allowed in like one project to do a retaining wall as opposed to sloping it back, they could have left a lot more vegetation and then not had to make such heavy cuts, where he said the natural grow in would overhang the wall and you'd never see it anyway.
Yeah, I just, I don't know, I feel like it's
Have you
a little
looked,
weak on when we should grant that kind of waiver, you know what I mean? It's kind of, to me, it's kind of soft. It kind of says, we'll give you that. If you just demonstrate something and we'll give you 9%.
It says may apply the most suitable road dimension.
Yeah,
It doesn't say we have to.
if you look at Young Road, Coyote Road, it's called, 16 units, they did a 500-foot clear cut
Yeah,
all the way through. Just,
right.
that's the way they do
More
business.
structure around when we get the 9% would make me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, if we could hang the 9% there, saying you can increase it, but you cannot do a clear cut, that each lot has to have some vegetation on it. There has to be vegetation between the lot. But for them to come in and clear cut 500 feet from the back lot of one lot, the back of one lot, across the road to the other, has all been gone.
That's kind of my point. Before we give something away, let's get something for it
Exactly.
and do a better job of defining what those things are.
Okay.
So we granted the waiver for 9%.
So why don't we dictate that rather than just flagging the lot for where the lots are, you actually flag what they can cut. That way they have to cut and define the lot and the lot layout, as opposed to just clear cutting the whole area.
I think we're talking about two different things. But I agree with what you're talking about, but I mean, I think it's a separate thing than 9%. 9% is slope and, and cuts and fills and that kind of stuff. I think the clear cutting is a problem too, but I think they're not one and the same.
I think that's just the way they do business now.
Right. I mean, I think you could do your cuts and fills in a much more controlled way, but it's much easier for them to come in and just blast the whole thing.
Well, they generally don't want to blast, and that's why they have it for the 9%. They want to avoid ledge or whatever.
Well, and when I say blast, I'm really referring to just plowing their way through all of it.
I was thinking real blessing.
There is some of that as well.
Yeah, I just think it makes it kind of, we'll give the 9%, pretty much throw anything at us and we'll give you the 9%. I think it's like a little more
I'd be
structure.
very
around-
reluctant to give 9% unless they really
I agree with that.
made a
and-
great
and
effort
I don't,
and presented plans.
I agree
and
with you
had-
on that, John. I just don't get a reason.
Had backup with a forester they would have to hire to make sure it's
I love
done.
what you're saying. I don't think that's the same.
Well, it says, but we don't have to do it. You get into a discussion if they need more grade.
But then it says if you can do these things. So it kind of says, if you do these things, you get the 9%. And I think that's not what you're saying.
I know.
But I think that's soft. I think it's softer.
Too soft?
I think
Well,
so.
what do you want to take out? That
Some of the stuff that you're talking about, define that it's optional at the board's discretion if certain things are done, and define what those things are in a little more detail. I mean, that's my take.
The planning board will entertain waiver requests for road grades up to 9% and changes in road radius if such changes will aid the applicant in retaining natural features, reducing visual impact, and meeting the objectives of the four-step process.
So this kind of
You
says,
could add a little something in there.
well, my point of view would be, okay, I've reduced the impact, I should get 9%. That's what it says. It's a little too much of a giveaway, I think. A little too soft in my mind.
All right, first, planning board may entertain, it should be may instead of will.
It says, yeah, may.
We do that.
Yeah, will is almost shall.
It's getting close to shall, isn't it? It is shall. Entertain waiver requests for road grades up to 9% and changes in the radius.
It
If such changes will aid.
will substantially improve.
Right.
Well, substantially.
If such changes will substantially.
Aid the applicant.
Aid the, just so you think that one word was,
It's a
Enough.
little stronger, yeah, a little stronger. I'm good with that.
okay. Is that okay with you?
Do we have to say the applicant? Can it just say will substantially aid in retaining natural features?
Yeah, I think-
Because this isn't about the applicant. This
Right.
is about the real estate.
Property.
Will aid, all right, take the and applicant out.
Yep.
Mhm.
Aid in retaining natural features, reducing visual impact, and meeting the objectives of the four-step design process.
All right, in a similar vein, John,
Sure.
on the drawing, in the next page of drawing,
Yep.
the unit count per group may increase with planning board approval.
Right, as you remember, everything has to be four.
Yeah. All right, what are the things we should consider is letting him go above 4?
Suppose if this particular example is here, suppose we say that, and maybe this is adjacent conservation land. We say, if you create trails from each of these pods that intersect and then go to currently
My point is,
environmental.
when we give stuff away, it should be like previously. If
Yep.
it does this,
Yep.
if you do that, we'll do that. This just says we will do it, and doesn't tell you when we should do it, what things we should consider doing it. It should be once again.
But that's on this, it's not in any of the regulations, is it?
I didn't
that-
see it.
those
So
words?
why is it on the drawing if it's on the regulations? You know what I mean?
Let's scratch it off the drawing.
I have no problem with that.
Suggestion?
Yeah, I have no problem with
Okay. Just so nobody will be able to cite that.
Is that language embedded in the regulation then?
I didn't see, I didn't see it, did you?
No.
Yeah. Because this was an afterthought that their artist sent us. Anything else?
Yes, under 10.4.3, ownership and management. It starts with ownership and management by the town of Barrington is encouraged for all common or open space within the conservation subdivision, and goes on to say another alternative is for the land to be retained by the homeowners association. we're just creating an added burden or cost for the town. My recommendation would be that it is retained by the homeowners association, and if it is to be turned over to the town, or the homeowners association does not maintain it, that at that point, the town will take it over, but the homeowners association will be charged an appropriate fee for the management of such.
Because lawyers may have trouble with that one.
Here's the way I look at this. If the town is gonna bear it, end up bearing the responsibility for it, because the homeowners association doesn't wanna do their responsibility to maintain it, that's fine. Maybe they don't do their responsibility for it, but it shouldn't become a burden of the Conservation Commission to now have to manage it without having some additional cost allocated to it to make sure it can be taken care of.
I hear what you're saying. I think I go the other way. I would never take it over. If it's with the homeowners, if they don't manage it, some kind of action should be taken against the homeowners association.
That's ultimately what I'm saying here, is that it gets taken over, but it may not be the Conservation Commission that's responsible for it. It could be a third party that you now hire to come in and do it at the cost of the homeowners association.
I think the language should always be the town is authorized to take action, but it's not responsible. So if something, something goes badly wrong, the town has the authority to go in and take some corrective actions, causing flooding, whatever, but it's not their responsibility. So they should have access to the property in case of emergency, but they should never have the responsibility to take the financial burden.
Right. That's really what I'm trying to get to, is it's not the town's financial responsibility to do
I'm
it.
going to open this to public comment. Would anybody like to speak to this? How's that for a softball?
John Wallace, just on Maryhill Road. I'm not anything too special these days. I would strongly recommend you do not allow homeowners associations to own open space. It has produced nothing but headaches for the town. As you probably all know, I have a lot of experience with that. And the legality of it becomes incredibly ambiguous in the long run. I mean, there are conservation easements held by the town that are technically owned by homeowners associations, but nobody will own up to it. You can't talk to anybody. If there's a violation, you don't know who to talk to. Really, make it the town or possibly an authorized conservation organization, such as a land trust. Generally, land trusts aren't too interested in this, but sometimes it can happen. So I would just say either a municipality or I forget the exact term, but authorized conservation, an organization whose existence is devoted to conserving lands. And admittedly, there would be costs associated with that for the homeowner probably, but that's the way it should be.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Doug Bogan, Chair of the Conservation Commission. I think we would concur with the previous comment. It has been a problem. We don't want to expand that problem in the future. Regarding fees, I mean, I think if it's going to be turned over to the town, there should be a fee, stewardship fee right up front. I mean, that's the kind of thing we've been hoping for many years. As you know, we would like to be able to have a part-time staff be able to do some of the work. We're frankly overloaded at this point with so many lands that we have to steward and monitor and so forth, that it's getting to be a real challenge, and most of us aren't getting any younger. So we really appreciate having some financial support as well as the regulatory support. So I don't know if that's what Mr. Kreveling was getting at, talking about the fees earlier on. Is that what you were referring to, like a stewardship fee?
Yes, that was what was in here that nobody had really come to a consensus on during the last discussion.
Yeah, so I would just say we would strongly support that, because we've seen it kind of on a case-by-case basis. Most notably, the land right up here in the Stone Arch, I believe there was a stewardship fee included. I think it was just voluntary on the case of the developer, but we'd like to see it become standardized if possible. And especially if it is going to be turned over to the town, we want to have the wherewithal to do the job.
Discussions with the Oak Hill parcel, have they offered a fee or any?
I don't believe so. I mean, I haven't heard anyway. We seem to be the last to hear
My
about
fear is if we ask too much They'll just say, never mind, we're gonna just give it to the homeowners association. I don't think we can can we force them to give town land, the land?
I'll be honest, one, I don't think it should be turned over to the town. I think we should put stronger language in place that puts the homeowners association on the hook. On regard to staffing, I have been barking this for years. I spent 6 years sitting on the select board on it, talking about it, and John knows because he stood here in front of us many nights talking about it, that I do not, the whole point of the Conservation Commission funds was to fund the staff needed to do it, and how the Conservation Commission allocates and utilizes that fund is the responsibility of that commission. It is not the taxpayer burden to now go fund staff members when we're putting 75% of conservation money for properties coming out of current use. 75% of that money goes to the Conservation Commission. It is the Conservation Commission's responsibility to appropriately use that funds for the conservation of lands, as well as management of those lands and staffing of those lands. And those lands, most of the lands do not have management plans. They do not have appropriate cut plans. They have not been maintained within accordance of a good management plan, which creates further problems for our fire department, our police department, as well as any other maintenance that goes along with it. And I have barked that for years, sitting in front of both the planning board and the select board.
Okay,
May I comment on that, or?
please.
Just, and I've only been chair for a couple of years now, but I've been on the board for several more. We just haven't had the funds. I mean, and we're very concerned that, as the town gets built out and we reduce the potential for future development, future land use change tax amounts, we're even going to have less funds available. As it is, we're kind of hard pressed. We've got proposals right now for significant land purchases, and we don't know if we have the money. And a lot of that is because of just the ongoing debate about the Richardson Dam, as I'm sure you all know, has been hanging over us for years. We want to find other ways to fund things short of going to the voters, and a bond or something. If we can work in some of these fees, which are quite reasonable requests, the CELT certainly requires them when they do a conservation easement, and it's just part of the path, and it seems like it ought to be on the developer to come up with that. That's my opinion anyway.
So what would the fee you would suggest?
I don't have a figure. I don't know if John has an idea. I know CELT has come up with some figures.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I'm sure I've heard it. I don't know it offhand, but I could easily get from CELT, I'm on their lands committee, the formula they use for stewardship money when they acquire a property. I should mention, though, there's a problem with this, at least unless things have changed since I was more directly involved, in that if it's a fund that is to be kept on the side, I don't believe there's a legal mechanism by which that can happen at the state level at this point. The conservation fund is a separate thing. I mean, you could have sort of a underwritten agreement that this portion of the Conservation Commission is dedicated for this purpose. In fact, we tried to do that once 20 years ago or so, but so I think there's a legal complication with trying to do that at this point. I mean, I would think it's a good idea that there should be some sort of stewardship fund that can be retained from year to year, but I do not believe there's a legal mechanism for that right now.
The problem is that money comes in and goes into the general fund or gets appropriated to conservation, but it is not designated as to how it has to be used as a line item. It goes in as an SB2 town, it goes in as one lump sum. So you can't allocate it off in that way, which means now the next year when it comes up for the allocation of resources or use, it comes out of your standard budget. The money may be sitting there in a bank account somewhere for the town, but it is now part of general fund money and not allocated there. And you can't separate it out in a way that you can say, okay, this goes into account that earns a standard 5% CD rate and you live off the interest of that money to fund your other project, your resources or your labor, so to speak. If you could, that would make 100%, that would make the most sense. Because then you'd be utilizing your interests and dividends money to pay for the resource that you're using to do all of that. The way CELT does it is both John and my brain's crapping out. I'm sorry, Doug. We're talking about is they actually create a land management plan, and then they set up logging of some of the property where they do rotational logging. They do things that generate revenue off the property to help offset some of that. Plus, they have a giant fund set aside where they use the interest of that money to fund their resources.
It's not quite as simple as that.
I'm absolutely oversimplifying it, but I'm oversimplifying it for the standpoint that going any farther.
Does not log land in order to pay for the stewardship. They log land if it is sometimes they make money on it. Frequently they do, but it is done for the purpose of wildlife habitat, water supply protection, occasionally recreational uses, things like that. It is not done to make money, I assure you that.
But what do other towns do? Is there no solution that anybody's found?
Well, the law is, I think it's RSA 36, 36, right? We have the RSA, you can read it there. It seems like it's pretty limited to how they can get funds. But it's all defined there. You have to follow that law. So, but to your point, I think, Doug, I'm seeing a disconnect between your argument. We haven't got enough money to take care of the properties we have now, but we want to acquire more properties. Seems to be, I'm leaning to an Andy's argument. If you can't manage what you got now, you shouldn't be acquiring any more property.
Well, we want to do that with the provision that there are funds charged.
But we're just talking, you can't get the funds. I mean, you can't get it from the tax, you don't want to get it from taxpayers. That'll kill your support. You can't get it from stewardship funds probably. But let me finish. A lot of your properties, with subdivision conservation, you're going to get smaller pieces that may not be contiguous or have high recreational value. And saying the town should acquire those, to me, makes no sense. I mean, if you've got a homeowners association taking care of 100 acres in the back, why does the town get in the middle of that? It doesn't seem to me to make any sense. So I'm with Andy on this one. I mean, it should be the homeowners as first. If it is contiguous and it connects to trails and stuff, yeah, then the town should acquire it. If it's got special benefit to the town or, connects to other properties. But other than that, taking it over just seems to burden you guys even more, and you're pretty much complaining now,
But I think practically some of the homeowners associations essentially disband after the roads are taken over by the town, and so then it becomes.
But if you have it in the deed, if it's in their deeds, then they have a continuing responsibility to take care of the property. So we have to make.
But if the homeowners association doesn't exist, who's taking care of the property?
But if it is in their deed, which is what he just said, they have a legal obligation to do it.
Try to enforce it. Believe me,
But who are you
there
going to enforce it
homeowners
against?
associations
It's in their
that don't
deed.
exist.
Yeah, but who? But there's no people involved.
You're
The people
enforcing-
of you're talking about each land
If the
homeowner?
enforcing
If the deed-
each
if the deed
individual
says they
lot.
have to have a homeowners association,
Yes.
and they have to support it.
It's lot 263-480, 48, 47, 46, right down the
You're just
line.
going to issue a summons to everybody?
You would have to.
Well, who's going to do that? Our town attorney? Or?
No, once again, the town should have the authority but not the responsibility to go and take action. The town goes in and takes action.
Then you just bill everybody and that's that.
Yeah, be done with it. If there's a crisis, then the homeowner association is not doing their job. The town should have the authority to go in and rectify the problem.
But it would sound like historically that should have been done, because there are cases, and I haven't been on the commission that long, but apparently there have been cases historically with homeowners associations where they simply don't respond. So has there ever been an action that was taken? Not that I've ever heard.
Has the Conservation Commission requested from the town administrator that they take legal action? So, I mean, you have the lot numbers, you have the deed numbers, you have what was agreed upon for a subdivision and an easement on it.
So you're saying this is the Conservation Commission?
Well, if the planning board approves this, wouldn't it come back to the planning board if they're not keeping up their?
No, we put the conditions, but enforcement
enforcement
conditions
would be with
never
the-
falls on the planning board. We had nothing to do with it once.
Yeah.
What did you say the enforcement would be with the town?
It would
Not
be
the
with the
conservation.
Select board.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
The select board's the governing body. The select board, so the Conservation Commission would make a request to the select board. The select board would consult the town attorney, and they would go after every deed that's listed in that subdivision for it. And either you take action and then you bill it, you back bill it, or you file a notice of intent to take action against all of them. And I mean, as painful as it is, somebody gets it, you get I'll bet you it works, because if you get a summons from an attorney, you're doing one of two things. You're either spending a bunch of money hiring an attorney to fight back, and if it's in your deed, you don't have a whole lot of leeway, or you're taking action. You're going to be like, cough up the money that you need to go get it fixed.
I would definitely want to run this by legal to know what's the practicality of how this has been enforced, what's the case study on it.
I wonder if there's open space and then open space. Maybe larger spaces are taken over by the town and smaller open spaces are held by the neighborhood.
We'd have to define all that.
Yeah.
Well, but I don't know, Scott, that's definitely, a smaller space is contiguous to another space, or has access to trails, you'd probably want to acquire those.
I think
So I think it's not just size.
Yeah,
My
no, I
general
agree.
comment is
I
I don't think
understand.
the language there is correct, and it
I
should be
make a motion that we remove 10.4.7.
10.4.7 or 10.4.3, because my argument was around 10.4.3. But I also disagree with 10.4.7 for the
Yeah,
one-time
but that's
fee.
the question, because it's ambiguous.
Well, you're talking, you
Says-
also had the problem with 10.4.6, that's where it started.
Development restrict, yeah.
You have a whole
That's where you
problem
started.
with 10.4.
No, I
started with
10.4.3.
saying that we don't
So
want the
is it
town
the
to
select
take
board
it
that
over.
yeah,
really
you're right,
should
you're right.
advise us?
I think legal needs to weigh in on this first.
Do you want to
I
just
need to know the
take
practicality of it.
10.4 out to be worked on, and we can proceed with the rest of the regulations?
Let's see,
Maybe
like
consult
10
with the attorney, consult with the administration,
Yeah.
town administrator.
I mean, I think if you firm up the language, it solves your problem, and then you have an attorney that's.
But this allows Ernie
You don't
to
wanna
proceed
dove,
with
you
publishing.
wanna
Yeah, it
hawk.
needs some thought.
There may be some other solutions that are out there as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so I'll be happy to look into that.
I mean, there is a Conservation Commission Association, right? Do they provide guidelines to the individual ones? Maybe they have some solutions to this if you contact.
They do not.
They don't.
Unless it's happened in the last few years.
Okay, just,
Stewardship fees.
Right.
I mean, this is not.
right, yeah, I understand that, but if we got a developer, he says, I got 50 acres of land here. It's got homeowners association, and we say, boy, that might be a good piece of land to take, and maybe for the town. But then we say, you know, you gotta pay fees, you gotta do stewardship fees, you gotta do monitoring fees. They'll just say, we'll just keep it. Give it to the homeowners association.
And then they don't get their conservation supplement.
Money to go play.
If a tree falls from the open space. on
It
the
might be
house, the
considered a
town's
taking,
liable,
which
right?
is against the law, you know?
I would assume it is.
They could do a conventional subdivision.
Well, that's true, that's always the fallback.
Then we have 3 acres
Much
zoning,
lower
2 acres,
infrastructure
zoning,
costs,
depending
et
on where
cetera,
it
et
is.
cetera,
It's
associated
first of all
with
not likely to
conservation
happen.
Right,
Yeah. I would
good
agree,
question.
but,
That's
yeah,
why I'm saying maybe we should take 10.4 out and let's discuss this in more
Work on it
detail.
some more.
It needs further
Yeah,
clarification.
10
Is that-
point,
Is there a second?
I'll
Second,
second.
Roll call.
Shepherd, I.
Happy yellow eye.
Napa.
We'll just,
That's your eye.
we'll just work.
10.4.7
Fiscal eye.
as well removed, don't we?
Well, that would be the
All
whole
of
thing.
section 10.4.
Okay, yeah.
That's good for you too, right? You get to move along.
It's
here.
shocking that no one saw
So,
this in the state.
Otherwise, I'd be doing this, you know, a year from now. Okay. Anybody have any more comments on that item B? The whole conservation subdivision regulations. I know we changed the language on the earlier on the 9% grid. So
Yeah.
That's sufficient. Okay. We're done with that. Next item is item C, review of request for building permit from Christian Hampshire, 459 Berry River Road. Map 102, lot 35. Hi, how are you?
I'm great. We're planning to build an 8x12 addition onto our. What's that?
Name and address for the record.
Christian Habershaw, 459 Berry River Road, Barrington, New Hampshire. So we plan to build an 8x12, 96 square foot addition onto our kitchen. We got zoning board approval a month ago, and the matter I believe we're speaking about mostly has to do with the 10% contribution to the road. So I created a proposal that the road signed off on, I signed off on to make improvements in a close proximity to the house and the addition. I have a landscape construction business, so I have equipment and insurance, and to save a little bit of cost, we're hoping to do some of the work ourselves. But yeah, it's a pretty straightforward, small addition.
Okay. Project value is 13,000. He's given us 10%. Good. Any questions?
Well, there's a couple of concerns.
Oh, okay.
Have you talked to the road association about this?
I have.
And they're in favor of this work?
Yep, we're very happy about it.
All right. The second thing is, I think everyone has a problem with I'm going to attempt to do this.
I'm sorry, I added, Jamie mentioned that, I added an amendment clarifying what I meant by attempt.
So you're going to do the work?
I am going to do the work. The reason why I put attempt is because there's a large boulder sticking out of the road. So initially, I am going to attempt to remove it. In that amendment, if I can't remove the entire boulder, I'm going to drill into it and try to use shims and break it off, or eco bust an expansive mortar. Either way, I'm going to get that boulder so it's not protruding, and then adding gravel on top of that. So that's why the attempt was there initially.
Okay. As long as you just stay in contact with the road agent, that's good.
It's right outside my window, so I'm tired of looking at it.
Mr. Chairman, he did provide an updated letter
Okay.
on that. Yeah.
We have the blue sheet. One of the blue sheets. There you go. Yep.
I appreciate the detail.
Yeah.
How's it look? Everybody happy?
Yeah.
I think we should
Make a recommendation.
Make a recommendation to the select board that they approve this one.
Second.
Roll call.
Aye.
Captain,
Yep, yellow line.
Snap eye.
Jeff, you're right.
Down there.
Good luck.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Okay, next item D, review of request for building permit for Mark J. Rizzo and Vanessa J. Haley Rizzo. 435 McDaniel Shore Drive, map 124, lot 3, category 3, option 2 from the class 6 private road policy. Hello.
Could you take the mic over for the table? That'd be great. Good evening.
Hi there. My name is Vanessa Rizzo. I think we're coming here tonight because we applied for a waiver of the 10%. We received a staff report. I probably all have seen that. What I wanted to start with is the work proposal that we are making is our original proposal that we submitted back in, I think it was the April-May meeting when Mr. Witcher and Mr. Tobin came. He represented us at that meeting. Folks had said that it wasn't enough that we put in there. And they made a well-intentioned spur-of-the-moment change to boost it up and secure approval, but that amount is just beyond our. We did make an alternative proposal to create an emergency turnaround on Lakeview Terrace, but withdrew that after the town manager, Connor, told us that it likely would not be approved without us granting an easement or other property rights. We're unwilling to encumber our property in any way that might affect its future use. Thirdly, on the staff report that we received from you folks, it talks about a rock at Mary Hill Road, and this was actually discussed at our last road association meeting because it is a problem out there for safety. I don't know if that's something that you suggesting that we deal with that, but I think at the meeting we were really unsure who owns that property. Is it the town or is it a private owner? The general consensus, I think, was that we felt it was probably the town's responsibility for that rock. So I'm not sure why it ended up in this, on our report, but I don't know if that rock is something that we would be dealing with. I think it's town's rock, so. You want to take over?
Yes. The town's Class 6 and private road policy has a provision for a waiver, and we're asking for a waiver on the 10% amount. Plus, the detailed project narrative that is already included in the application. The waiver we're requesting is a reduction of 10% of the construction cost. Alternative proposal was listed in the original work proposal, which is attached, which has already been reviewed by planning. The requested waiver complies with all the criteria below. 1, the waiver will not be contrary to the public interest. The proposal addresses the public interest by substantially improving emergency access to the residents on McDaniel Shore Drive. Fire and emergency vehicles have historically been able to access the road in the past and perform their required work. These upgrades we propose will increase the ease and efficiency of emergency services. 2, the spirit of the policy is observed. Emergency access is being improved, therefore the spirit of the policy is being observed. 3, substantial justice is done. While we understand the goal of the town's policy, we feel that substantial justice is not being done, not receiving an equitable benefit. While your agreement requires select individuals to pay large amounts of money for road improvements, the town's emergency services and all the non-contributing residents have no responsibility for contributing towards this, yet they will benefit from the being levied on us. Those of us who want to improve our property are bearing the financial burden, which does not seem like justice. We don't believe the town should have the ability to require a fixed percentage and expect the homeowner to spend that amount on improvements of the cost of any repairs that already need to be made due to the construction process itself. The town does not plow or sand the road in the winter. The town doesn't fill potholes or grade the road each year. The town does not deliver mail to the individual homes. We pay our portion of road tax every year on the property tax bills, yet see no assistance from the town in maintaining the road. The private road, not a main road. When the project is finished, the town will still require us to sign a waiver absolving them from any responsibility for the road or any liability for loss. That does not seem like justice to us. Respectfully suggest that the town should consider amending their agreement to read up to 10%. The decision of what work to be done should be between the road agent and the home. The road is currently in good condition. We have an excellent road association that's committed to maintaining the road. Repairs are done as needed. It's not $40,000 worth of work needed. Cut down additional trees. The sake of reaching a 10% figure is not necessary or prudent enough. Residents enjoy the privacy and the rural nature of our neighborhood. Other homeowners that wish to improve their property in the future will most likely need to obtain our permission for tree removal, as we are owners of basically all the abutting land that is not currently. Should our waiver be granted, we can operate with future road required by other homeowners needing permits. That would also align with the spirit of the town. 4, the values of surrounding properties are not diminished. Any road improvement will not negatively affect the abutter's property, be a positive thing. 5, little enforcement of the ordinance will result in unnecessary hardship. We're not a developer with lots of money. Our ownership of the property on this road has come through multi-generational inheritance, not because we have deep pockets. Our goal is to take this 65-year-old seasonal cottage and build a retirement home. Planning this for 30 years, and if we'd known that a pandemic would have doubled construction costs and the town's planning to institute a 10% road fee on top of that, we would have built this 5 years ago. I'm retired and permanently disabled, so we're on a fixed income. All our retirement funds are going into this project, and the 10% fee is a significant hardship to add to this. As one of the first homeowners being subjected to this onerous requirement, we're also concerned that after more people have received permits over the years, there won't be any more road improvements that will be possible given the topography and the lay of the land. The burden of road improvements development should be shared by all who live on, not a few cherry-picked individuals at a bad time. So we respectfully request that you consider our original proposal, which amounted to $700.
Questions?
What does the road association say about this?
Hi,
Sure, take it over there.
I'm Ken Hockraft. I'm the road agent. I'm here with the president of the Road Association as well. We support the proposal as originally submitted and the exemption. We have 40 houses on the road, and the 10% of a building permit cost for road improvement is really punitive when you're looking at 40 people sharing the cost of a road, and now you're piling on to one family, 10%. We do road improvements. We do road maintenance every year, but we do road improvements like I told you last time we were here, every year as well. We've got this year, I'm doing the permits right now to replace 2 culverts. And it's all budgeted. That's paid for with road association fees. We share all the costs because it's our shared road. We're also doing some other road improvements up on Lakeview Terrace, I think it's called. That's a little cut through. But just in summary, I mean, the road association and the residents don't need to have individual homeowners funding the road improvements. The road association can do that. We all pitch in. If I call up a work day, people show up. We trim trees. We fill potholes in the winter. If trees fall down, I just start texting people, and people come out, and I'm cutting, and they're hauling wood out of the road. It's a community effort, and it's a community road, and we incur all the costs as a shared entity. So I support their proposal, and I hope you too.
Questions?
No, we have another public comment.
Oh, sure, please come forward.
I'm Stephen Jeffrey, 128 France Road. My property is across the lake from this property. It's now a stream, but while they fix the dam. But anyway, I oppose what they're proposing to do. They're basically demolishing an existing camp structure and replacing it with a new house. There's nothing in our zoning ordinance that permits that. I have an issue with this process in general because the planning board only has authority to decide subdivision and site plan reviews. They have no authority over individual lots. The reference in RSA 674-41 to review and comment by the planning board refers to a subdivision application requiring select board approval of the proposed private road prior to final subdivision approval. 674-41 prohibits issuing building permit on a lot that lacks road frontage as defined by statute. One purpose of the zoning ordinance is to bring all non-conforming uses into zoning ordinance compliance. Zoning Article 5 does not provide for demolition and rebuilding of non-conforming structures. If you disagree with me, I'd be happy to look at what you think it says. The zoning ordinance prohibits establishment of non-conforming uses. If owners could simply replace or reestablish non-conforming structures, there would be no reason to include the exemptions that are listed in the zoning ordinance. This lot has no class 5 or better road frontage. The access is via a right-of-way over land owned by the Elliott property. 67441 prohibits the town from issuing a building permit on a lot accessed only by a private right-of-way. McDaniel Shore Drive does not meet the state fire code requirements for width, length, turnouts, and does not provide an additional ingress or egress location. The deed from Elliott to McDaniel establishes and limits the right-of-way to 16 feet. Now, it appears from the plans that the entire structure is in the 75-foot shoreline protection zone, which prohibits construction. And 11.2.1 lists or articulates 75 feet of shoreline. I think the state has a 50-foot limit, but we go with the more stricter one. Lots of record does not include non-conforming uses and structures. If it did, non-conforming structures would continue forever and every property would be exempt from future zoning ordinance restrictions. The file does not contain an administrative decision that is required by statute prior to seeking a variance. The applicant owns significant undeveloped land, and they mentioned that, and is in a unique position to correct the deficiencies of access by submitting a new subdivision plan to create a private road. Stewart Drive is a good example of how to change a right-of-way to a private road meeting town standards. And I included some of the zoning ordinance about non-conforming uses and permitted restoration of certain non-conforming structures. What the zoning ordinance provides for acts of God and fire. Doesn't say anything about somebody just wants to demolish their house and rebuild it. So anyway, I'm opposed to that, and I don't think it's going to improve the value of my property one bit. I want to leave this with you all.
Thank you.
To the next.
Thanks. Any comments, reactions to anything?
I mean, my comment is, this is not the first time we've imposed 10%. We're pretty consistent on imposing 10% on all properties that are on Class 6 private roads that don't conform to the town standard. So this is, you said it was, the first time. It's not the first time. This regulation has been in place for 5 years?
Well, it was here when I came, and I've been on here 4 years.
Yeah, so this has been in place for 5 years.
It did.
The state does not allow the town issue building permits unless a process is followed, and this is the process we have. I'm sure it's because of lawyers somewhere along the line. They issued a building permit, and the emergency services couldn't get in there, and then they got sued. Why do you issue a building permit if you can't provide emergency services? So state law was put in place, and that's why it's in place. When a property is going from a seasonal to a full-time, inevitably there's an increase in requirements for expectation for services. If they're only there in the summertime, the likelihood of emergency response is lower. Once it's full-time, it's going to be higher. So we're looking for every property that goes in to improve the road. Now, one of the things that, the turnaround was discussed before, and then the response is we're unable to secure the control. I mean, you said you didn't know it was the town, you didn't know it was a property owner. Doesn't sound like a good faith effort was made here. And if it was a private property owner, was there an offer of, some financial incentive? That's specifically allowed in the regulation. So if you're going to encumber somebody's property, they're not going to do it for nothing. You say, well, how about if we offer $1,000? That is allowed under the policy as part of your 10%. And to me, there was no effort made. So to me,
It wasn't, well, I'm sorry. Yeah, we did make an effort. We did make an offer of evaluation of that land, but it was for the use of it, not.
Well, it could have been what could have happened, and the regulations specifically support this. You could have said, we want to have an easement for a turnaround on your property. We're willing to offer you $1,000, and we'll take care of all the paperwork. And that money would have been accounted to your 10%. So to me, there wasn't a good faith that the town agent went out, he found additional work could have been done to meet the 10%. So to me, there's not a good faith effort to do the 10% here. So, we haven't
We haven't allowed waivers before unless the property didn't, in some cases where you come up to town standard without the 10%, then we have allowed the waivers. Where it doesn't, you know, we're not gonna make it 10%. If you can get the road to where to your property and meet the standard, we're not gonna make it do 10% improvements if you can do it for 5%. If you bring the road up to standard. If you don't bring the road up to standard, then I don't think we've ever allowed a 10% waiver. So, I mean, I understand your
We
hardship.
have on Lake Point.
That one, which I voted against. You being a softie, rolled over. But that one burned down. I mean, it was a different situation.
No, there were actually two on Lake.
Okay. But, you know, traditionally, I think it's a bad precedent to start waiving the 10%. Because, you know, if it's not 10%, what is it? Is it 9%? Is it 8%? Once you start getting in, we have a line in the sand. Once you cross the line, you lose the objectivity of it. So.
Okay, well,
Any-
just as an addition, any widening of that road is going to require our permission to encroach upon it. And certainly be inclined to give it if we were otherwise.
That's what I was thinking. You owned, I think we looked at all the way down to make its turn, right? That large piece of property is owned by you and two other siblings. Now, if you could give 5 feet of that to the road association and have that appraised at $25,000.
Our evaluation would be much different.
Well, it's an easement, not purchase.
Yeah, but you're giving it to your own association, not to the town. The town can't
It's
take
still
it.
taking the land away.
Okay. All right, it was only a suggestion to give you, that it would be a non-cash offer that, as Ron has explained.
I'm sorry. I don't think it's our job to sit here and find a solution. This is their job to come in with a proposal that meets our regulation, and nobody's provided that.
Well,
So, and I'm sorry, but
He did mention
everybody,
it and rejected it. I was only
You're right.
suggesting that might be a better option.
But you have 8 people on this board who are sitting here volunteering their time to listen to a stalemate, and it's not going anywhere. So unless there is something that has materially changed, I'm requesting to stop wasting everyone's time and make it move forward.
One more speaker, please come forward.
Gary Kilpatrick, 723 McDaniel Shore Drive, and I'm the president the last 2 years of the association. It's as much a question as it is anything else. As Ken mentioned, who's the road agent, and we spend significant amount of money, not just maintaining the road, right? We grade it, but beyond that, we place culverts, a lot of tree work being cut, which I understand are both items that count towards improvements under the road policy. Is that correct? Comments? To the extent an association is doing that type of proactive work, is there anything that prevents that counting towards a homeowner coming in and putting forward a 10% contribution? We spent last year, I think, $6,800 on culverts. Value was probably more because we had gotten the culverts at a discount. And we've done that over the last 3 years, and we've got some more to do. And there's significant tree work that we do. We have a couple of people on the road who are very skilled at chainsaws. So we take down some trees. So in-kind work like that, does that at all count at all when people come forward? Does it have to come money out of their pocket? If it all goes towards the road improvement, which I understand is the basis of the policy.
So if they put forth that money, then the road, your association would not need to do it, right?
But if we're otherwise doing it.
So maybe you wouldn't do it next year and they would take that on.
The policy says from them, yes.
But it all goes towards the same point, improving the road. Why should it matter who contributes?
Well, the road association has maintenance requirements. This is specifically for improvements. So the money cannot.
No. What we do with culverts is improvements.
Yeah.
Right.
Replacing 50-year-old culverts, the metal version, with the large plastic of some sort version. And the significant effort that Ken puts in getting the permits from the state, whether that's funded by an individual or the association, it goes towards the purpose of the policy the town has, improvements. And we have a fair number of trees we've been taking down over the years that Eversource, hasn't gotten to, and widening the road as we've gone. So it's more of the question, does that type of thing, if it were part of the proposal, count?
Thank you. You asked me the question? The proposal says funded by the applicant. Specifically says that. So that's.
I had a conversation with somebody else in the town administration who had led me to believe otherwise. So I don't know
They
where
can
to
come
go.
in and state their opinion like everybody else.
I do feel a little bit different than Ron, and this is one of the roads that I think is taken care of, and they do actively work towards improving it, where we've got other Class 6 roads that aren't touched by anybody.
Mhm.
So if there was a road that I'd lean towards approving a waiver to a decreased amount, this would be one of them. I think I'm kind of a lone voice here, but that's my feel.
Anybody else thinking about the waiver? I'd like just to get the sense of anybody.
So there's 40 people who live there, so if.
It's
is that what you're
39,
saying?
40, yeah.
Close enough.
We got a
Close
good,
enough.
and
So
everybody
we could theoretically have a lot of applicants come in from your road who want to do expansion on it, so.
Yeah, there's no more, very few lake lots. But there's some older cabins, right? If people wanted to put up additions. Yep.
Right, so we have to establish something that works for on down the road as well. And this is a pretty difficult situation because then we have to look at other applicants too, who also decide they would like a waiver and trying to figure out how to be fair towards everybody.
Mhm.
So I don't know if there's a little more give and take here.
Seems like you're gonna turn us down, so.
Well, we don't do
Technically,
anything.
it's not
We're
us.
just gonna give a recommendation to the select board.
We're just trapped into this by state regulations. You think we want to have anything to do with this? We don't.
Your fight is with the select board.
Yeah.
Not
They establish
with
the
planning board.
policy, it's not, we don't.
We make a recommendation.
We could deny we could say we're not willing to issue a recommendation to proceed, and then you can still request to meet with the select board and present it to the select board and see if they're more inclined to do it, since they're the approving authority and body on it. It's not the planning board that approves it. We just offer a recommendation. That's why I apologize to you, but that's why I say I'm like, we don't seem to be going anywhere, so it's not an effective conversation at that point. That's usually where you end dialogue and move forward.
So based on that, does anybody have a recommendation they'd like
Can we
to
just vote?
vote on? What? You've got to give a recommendation to the select board. So what's the recommendation?
To
you're
accept
gonna-
less than 10% or not to.
Is that your motion?
Is that a motion?
Not sure I want to vote on that.
You can
Well,
make a
I'll
motion.
make a
Yes,
motion
I'll-
to
Yes. let's do
recommend that the select board approve it
With the lesser amount.
with the lesser amount. And if you guys vote nay, then
I would second that.
Okay.
It's a tough one.
Because the select board doesn't have to follow our recommendation.
I'm gonna say yay.
Cat can nay.
Nay, because I just don't know how I could justify this for the next applicants that come before.
Nay.
Also live on roads with lots of
That's your
other
yay.
people.
Nay.
Driscoll, yay. All right, we lose.
So now we have to make a motion to,
Right, not recommend approval.
I make a motion to not recommend this to the select board.
their second.
I'll second it.
What was it?
To
Can you-
not
can you repeat
recommend
it?
it. Shepherd, aye.
Cat and I.
Yeah, why?
Napa.
That's your name.
Howard, yay.
Just a name. Okay,
Sorry.
when you go before the select board, if you can improve things, make an offer, as I suggested. Of course, you may have to contact the other two people.
I would request to be on the agenda and let the select board hear your case. It shouldn't be the town administrator telling you that. It should be the select board telling you that.
Make sure you get, make sure you put here. Okay. All right. There's one more thing on the agenda, right?
Yep. And then rule of procedure.
No, yeah, rules of procedure. Do you have something to hand out on that? Okay. There it is. All righty.
Why are you doing that?
Yeah,
I have a concern I want to run by the rest of the board and see if they share the concern. If you look under zoning, this is kind of related to, remember the karate thing we had?
Yeah.
And it says in there that, in the zoning, that it follows subdivision regulations. It's 3.1.6 on page 7 of zoning. If you read that, and it's a bit quick, Andrew, it's a bit quick. And
We're not going down rabbit hole?
No. This is kind of,
316 site plan, no.
Zoning. Didn't you say zoning?
Yeah, zoning.
Article 3?
3.1.6.
Yeah.
Site plan review regulations.
Shall comply with site plan regulations of the town of Barrington. Kind of an this is a legal detail, but if we give waivers, does it go back to the ZBA? The language seems to indicate that you have to, under zoning, you have to comply with the subdivision regulations. It doesn't seem to say the planning board can give waivers. So if we give waivers, do we have to go, does it require ZBA approval?
So I would argue, when I look at site plan review, the 3.1.6 site plan review regulations, multifamily dwelling units and non-residential development shall comply. This isn't a development, this is a change of use.
No. But my point is, let's say that happens and we give waivers to one of the.
Waivers to the site plan review regulations?
Let's say we give waivers to a multifamily dwelling or a non-residential development.
Okay.
The zoning regulations say it shall comply. Doesn't say anything about waivers. So if we give waivers, does it have to go to the ZBA because it doesn't comply with the
Right, yes, I would agree with you on that.
So that language needs to be changed, I think, to say that we can give waivers, basically, without ZBA approval. You know what I mean? I think it's a legal point, but I think if I was somebody who wanted to fight a development, I would say, you didn't get ZBA approval because you didn't comply.
Could you have
Something to think
something
about,
you
I
could use
guess.
for an example in that? Like where would,
Yeah.
I would just change the language to say, subject to, and waivers approved by the planning board or something like that. So it just makes it clear that.
Just write something up and give it to Bernie. That will be,
Okay.
on a,
Make sure everyone could share the concern. I think it's a problem.
if you could make it more,
I'll make a list of the problem. I'll propose some language.
yeah, propose some language.
Okay.
Next year we can get it.
So the provision we talked about, I don't have anything to hand out to you, but it was the 15-day.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna make that 21 day.
days. Yes, that was the
Yeah,
change.
the state law is 21 days. You have to have your plans in before the planning board. And ours say 15 days, which is ancient stuff. So,
You're allowed to have 15 days.
Yeah, you
but
can.
you decided We've discussed it earlier.
But it's less of a
But it got
burden on
changed.
you guys if it gets in early, so.
We've had a couple, in the last two meetings, we've had developers come in and say, well, your regulations say 15 days. So it just kind of compresses the time
yeah.
frame.
No, I think I would agree with that.
Do what? Go to this
Got a
21?
change in the, it's in our manual.
Rules of procedure.
Rules of procedure, just bump it to 21 days from 15. Everybody okay with that?
Fine.
You want to vote?
It was farther out. at one
I'll make a motion that we change it from 15 days to 21 days. Second by
I'll second it.
Andy. Roll call.
Second,
Cat can I?
Capital I.
Napa.
Tessie, right?
Okay.
I mean, okay, I didn't get, yeah, I voted, yes, go,
Oh.
man. Did you vote?
Just Scott, yeah.
Okay.
All right, everybody did. Time to get out of here.
No,
Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
I'll second it.
Cat can I?
That's your thing. Roll
Capital
call.
I, sorry.
Roll call.
You're waiting for me.
Tessie, right?
Nah, I want to stay.
Why does that not surprise
Driscoll,
me?
aye. Jeez.